Let's go live to Keir Simmons with more on the breaking news out of the UK. Boris Johnson, British Prime Minister, testing positive for the virus. Keir?
Yeah, that's right. We've just heard this news. Boris Johnson himself actually tweeting the news on a video message that it almost looks a little like a kind of a selfie video. And I imagine that is because he will have been immediately self-isolating. Of course, it appears that from that video that he's in Downing Street, sitting in a leather chair, describing himself as having tested positive for coronavirus, but that he has mild symptoms. If the British Prime Minister was sicker than that, then the British Foreign Secretary would take over leadership of the country, Dominic Raab. For now, though, the Prime Minister saying that he intends to continue his work leading the country, albeit by video conference. So trying to reassure people whilst letting people know that he has tested positive. But of course, even while Europe is looking like it's managing to control infections, for here in the UK, this news will come as something as a blow, Mika.
Hey, Keir, it's Willie. It was just Monday that the Prime Minister issued the 3-week lockdown of the country where you're standing right now. I know it's early and we've just learned this news that Boris Johnson has tested positive for coronavirus. But is there any sense among your sources, people you talk to, that his own test or his own suspicion that he may have, in fact, contracted coronavirus impacted that decision?
I don't think that is likely. If he just tested, we know, for example, from what happened with Prince Charles, that he began to get symptoms and was tested pretty quickly, or the day afterwards, pretty much, and then got the results back a day later. We don't know the details right now, Willie, of how the Prime Minister's case played out. But of course, because he's the Prime Minister, you can imagine that as soon as he felt sick in any way, he is likely to have mentioned it to his advisors that he would have been tested very quickly because, of course, one of the issues in governments around the world is as soon as a member of the leadership of that country, in this case in the UK, the British cabinet, is infected, action steps have to be taken in order to ensure that others don't get infected, because that would be really damaging to the leadership of a country. So I don't think it will have impacted that decision, but we do know, of course, that Boris Johnson has taken an approach here in the UK, and you can see behind me now the streets are locked down. People mostly are not out in the streets. The UK took its time to get to that point, not wanting to impose on people a longer lockdown than seemed necessary, judging that it was going to be difficult for people to maintain this kind of a lockdown. And now we hear that the British Prime Minister himself has been infected. So again, a blow, honestly, while at the same time he's trying to reassure people.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.